Hello and welcome to the I don't know what show it is anymore. I don't know if it's the Kevin Allen show. I don't know if it's Kevin Allen. I don't know if it's CT Cowboy. I don't really know, and quite honestly, I really don't care anymore. That's the beauty about feeling peace is you're just going to kind of take what you have and deal with it. And so I've been coming on, popping up. We had some amazing meetings today with the producer, Mark. Maybe he'll pop on here or not. I don't know. We had amazing meetings today with some different platforms that they're looking to partner with. And speak of the guy right here, he pops in right as I'm getting ready to do it. He's going right on the show right now because I said his name. He's queued up. There you are, Mark. I queued you.
Hey, good afternoon.
I didn't even try to do that. I mean, I didn't even set this up. No production was done here, but I said I was talking about being on some great calls with you today earlier, and then just kind of thinking about what is it that I'm going to be doing because I get a lot of people like yourself. You and I go back and forth. What are we doing? What is it that we actually do? And I think we've created something that now is being defined really as a obviously God is an important part of everything in my life. I think you've been one of the inspirations to get me there, but it's also understanding how we're living, man, how this place is just so divided and broken. Of course, God being the balance of that, but then exposing our own lives and sharing it with people. And I'm that guy. God chose to actually speak, Mark. And so we've been talking about how we do this. And so let's have a conversation before we get into insecurity, because you and I have our own story about insecurity and we're going to talk about it.
Sounds good. I think
So
that is so common among everyone. If people just say they're not insecure about certain things, it's so common and it's so normal. But it's what you do with the insecurity, I think.
it's interesting because you have a better grasp of insecurity than I did. So I don't know if it was my specifically, I was a correction officer for 21 years. I was 21 years old when I got the job. If you don't, if you can believe anything that comes out of my mouth, well, you can believe everything now because God won't let me lie. I was insecure every day I went to work, right? I mean, I was in an environment that was not really making me myself. And to some degree, I was brought up insecure, and we'll get into that after. But how can insecurity, Mark, affect business? Because you and I have had an interesting couple years where I actually have created some really insecure moments for you because I was acting insecure, and then you admitted yourself. How does that work in business, and how can people avoid some of those pitfalls? I'm going to get into my story about insecurity a little bit after me and Mark kind of get this thing chewing a little bit. But how can people avoid that in business, Mark?
Uh, a lot of the insecurity is fear of success.
Yeah.
Doing something that has not been done before. You got lot of negative Nancy's maybe in your life saying, why are you going to do that? Or doing something that's already been done, but you can do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of it's based on fear.
Mm-hmm.
And fear is a liar. It's gonna hold you down. It's gonna say you're not good enough.
Yeah. So you just summarized about every country and Christian song with Zach Williams and Johnny Cash. Ain't no grave gonna hold you down. So it's so true though when you think
But it's
about
true.
fear. Listen, I lived in fear for 53 years. Right, I'm open about it. 52 years old. I went into that 3 days in the woods last year and called the woods. You know the concept, and I went in there fear, and I've lived in fear even since we had that moment. I had that moment and shared that experience. I've had the fear since I went to Asbury University because you told me that this was happening. I didn't even have a clue. I told Mark, guys, when Mark told me about Asbury University, and it's part of our testimony and our story we're going to be telling proudly. I drove all the way from Baltimore. I drove to Baltimore for a meeting, was going to drive 6.5 hours back home, dressed like I was a roadie for some country rock band, and no change of clothes. Mark said Asbury University. I drove there, blind faith, right? Blind faith. But guess what I had? I was still insecure. I didn't know in the moment what was happening to me. And it's part of a journey that I want to talk about because men, I think, are probably more affected by insecurity and the latter part of their life. Not in the beginning. I'm not going to talk about women growing up, and I have a daughter myself. But I think men, we battle insecurity, and I think that's what leads to a lot of our issues, Mark.
Yeah, and it's still the old statements. Boys don't cry. Men, you got to toughen up.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the pressure of doing everything just it overloads you.
Right,
Like short circuits the brain, and what do?
right. So, listen, you and I like to talk politics. And in a way that's open-minded and respectful, and also we also like to talk about real life issues, and we have the hunting that we talk about. But it took a while to develop that relationship, and I think some of the insecurities in the beginning relationship is, what's somebody want from me, what's that person expecting of me, and am I fulfilling that obligation to that relationship? And I think this same point that I want to discuss with you can fairly be discussed in marriages, businesses, in
Yeah.
relationships at work, coworkers. So how are you, understanding, because you watched me go from some bizarre lunatic that was so wanting to go somewhere so fast that I was out there, and God had me on a journey, clearly, because I wouldn't have been able to have so many of these amazing connections today without some of that journey. But how were you able to withstand that and know that I was insecure the whole time?
I think maybe security in self. I knew there was something greater. I could see light at the end of the tunnel, and perseverance.
Hmm.
If you totally believe in something, you're going to give it 100%, and it's going to come off as real because you believe in it,
Hmm.
and you'll manifest it. Versus, going off all willy nilly,
Hmm.
in 10,000 directions.
Hmm.
Find out what you want to do, write yourself a plan, and try to stick to it as best as possible. And if you don't have the knowledge, seek the knowledge to get you to the next level.
100%. And so, if anyone's just tuning in now, you haven't seen us live before, you haven't seen this show. We started off 4 years ago, I think it was. Paula and I, who I'm no longer with Paula in my life, and I think it's fair for that to be I get a lot of people ask me questions. Paula's an amazing person. I nothing but love there, and certainly journeys end at some point. I think a lot of my insecurities led to that relationship. We're going to talk about that in some future shows that we're going to be working with some professionals, not me, some professionals talk about. But it was also, we began from just creating something we didn't even have a clue about, Mark, and then all of a sudden I had this vision that, I was going to be flying around and being like the next Joe Rogan, and the arrogance, I actually started to believe it, built even more insecurity. So anyone that was coming to me, I thought they were trying to take something from me. Right out of the box, I'm ready to fight. And maybe that goes back to my childhood of not having a lot, and certainly growing up the way I did. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, it's a scary thing to go on a podcast and put yourself out there and report stuff. Some stuff's not popular, some, truth hurts.
Mhm.
But you see people with thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of subscribers, you're like, oh, I'm just going to pop up and, we're going to get 100,000 subscribers tomorrow.
Mhm.
It doesn't work that way.
Nope, it doesn't. And I think sort of that insecurity that built over me, and this is, anyone that's following this journey, that now I'm kind of speaking to the folks that are watching that have seen us. Um, it has been such an evolution to see how people have believed in me, and somehow, some way, I was too insecure to capitalize on those relationships, and those relationships in business and personally. So, this is an admission, right? This is me saying to the person out there right now that's saying, that sounds stupid, because men in general, right? We don't want to be wimpy guys, right? And I get so many people now, Mark. They're like, "What's going on? Did you get castrated?" They think I'm just like this. They always go to the rude and the crude, where I'm actually thinking, guys, I want to talk to you about how you can fix a problem right now today. And first and foremost, you need to turn to God. You need to pray. And if praying to you is just talking and listening to that inner voice that's going to respond back to you, do it today. Or if it's possibly understanding you are insecure and it's ruining things in your life, take a moment to think about what that means to you, right, Mark? I want people to think. That's the messaging. God has given me this platform to share. What's the name of our show here again? Because I don't think it's the Kevin Allen platform anymore.
I'm not sure yet. We're going back and forth. We'll figure it out real soon.
I hope you do. Don't make me insecure about it.
I'll try not to. I'm working on
So,
it.
so
We
we
want
had.
to bring like more uplifting stuff. I think me, I'll probably we'll stick to still some hard hitting political stuff. But we're gonna be asking more questions. Not, the hard hitting rah rah rah, that people expect from us.
Right,
We're still gonna hit the subject, hard and dig for answers.
right.
But we're all in this together, and we need to pull together. And men need to support men, and it's okay for a man to say, "Hey, I need help."
And I want women. Listen, we have lots of women that watch us and know this. I actually right now probably have 4 or 5 women that have been sending. I've been talking with, giving them some help in their own sobriety. Some people that ask me about how I found my way to God, and those are questions I welcome. Man, just ask me because my story is real. I put it out there for everyone to hear, and my poor kids and everyone in my life, they know, they've accepted at the point that, listen, this is what this guy's about. He's just going to use his platform to do this, and that's what God chose me for. Because really, at the end of the day, one of the greatest parts about coming out here and being like this right now, I wouldn't have done this 6 months ago. And I was
Yeah.
walking with Jesus 6 months. I wouldn't have done it 12 months ago, and I certainly wouldn't have done it in any part of my life because it would have come across like weakness. And men in this society we live in, you cannot be a weak-kneed male if you want to be looked at like a king. And so ironic that I have this shirt on. Folks, go check it out because if you want to be a king and you want to check out this book, I'll drop a link in here at some point for this book. And this is Victor Avila. Victor is excuse me, that's not Victor. I made a mistake, folks. Victor is the congressman running. And this is about Raul Velasquez, and he is the founder of this next level project that he put together. And his project is all about empowering men. And when I went there, this is what I started thinking. I threw the shirt on today, Mark, and I started thinking, man, when I was at that boot camp 2 years ago, I don't even know if we were working together then. And at the boot camp, it was 200 men there. I really looked at my insecurity. It was why I failed every business relationship that I've ever had. It's true. That's
Yeah.
what I write. That's my, and I think in our relationship, let's talk about it so people understand how real we're about this. You shared with me just yesterday about being insecure about with me, and talk about that because that's a real time thing that's happening, right?
Yeah, especially a lot of insecurity comes with multiple opportunities. When you got a bunch of you're juggling a bunch of plates and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't get to this, I can't get to that." If A, B, C, oh my god, D's falling, but I got to support A, and you get beat down a little bit like, "How am I going to do this?"
Mm-hmm.
And then that inner voice of self doubt starts kicking up, kicking up, kicking up, and then you just want to say, forget everything and run.
Mm-hmm.
I like acronyms sometimes, and that's what
Yeah,
fear is: F everything and run,
yeah. I
or
listen.
you face it.
I think one of the interesting parts about fear is that fear will come in a variety of ways, and what I mean by that is I conditioned my fear through my childhood. On the show I've talked about it. It's in my testimony. We'll be sharing. In an interview with Stormy Daniels in this journey that God chose me for, I admit that I was molested by as a child by my babysitter, and I've had such an interesting reaction. I thought that was really freeing for me. Some people told me to shut my mouth about it. Some people didn't want to hear about it. Some people think it's an excuse or whatever. And I found that I started getting insecure. And I did for a long time after I said that with her. I didn't want to talk about it anymore because I felt like men were looking down at me and women were thinking I was something wrong. And, there was something wrong. It was unattended. Uh, un, I didn't get any attention to the needs I needed or I had at that time. And that created insecurity, that created the insecurity, I think, with women, intimacy, trust issues. And that really all stems back to when that happened in my life.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't, want to admit maybe they were a victim or they succumbed to something. It's painful, but it's what you do with it.
Right. Well, I think what we've done with it is we've created something. It's evolved over time. And I think maybe in some aspects, I want to thank everyone I've been involved with on these platforms along the way, all these production houses, people that have come in our lives and left our lives. Paula being the rock and foundation to help getting this whole thing going. And then you coming aboard. And then, you really just staying with this and not being insecure enough to leave, but being secure enough to stay and actually watch it get into where we're going. You've been on a couple calls. This is not brag time. This is, but you know where we're going, right? I mean,
Yes.
there's no more doubting or wondering what's happening, guys. And if it's my story of going from the state house to, homeless, and I say that in jest. I did live with Jake the last week in Connecticut and was sleeping on Paul's couch for the longest time. I'm very open about this because you know what? The reality is, if we're going to really be that guy that wants people to turn this on and support us, we got to be true to our core, brother. And that is no insecurity at all.
Bingo. And you know me, I don't pick projects that are easy. I do everything the hard way.
Well, a lot of people probably don't know. And Mark, it's great you bring it up. So you worked with Ken Kaplan, and you were creating a Discovery reality show, and you had the firsthand experience at how really, I guess interesting and ugly of the side of that kind of media company. And we're dealing with that with the Put Up or Shut Up. That part of my journey and the other podcast working on down South Carolina. But you had the experience, and were you insecure in that experience?
No. The hardest part, I think, with that experience when you get everybody involved, and especially when you build such a huge YouTube channel. I came on board when we had, I don't know, it was not even 2,000 subscribers, and now we're, I think almost 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
We've had, I think, 12 million views on our channel, and it was everybody who wanted a piece of you and to try to navigate like who was being true, who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit, especially with this whole project, there was lots of pie in the sky BS,
Mm-hmm.
promises, promises, promises.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't meant to be. And we're doing our thing. We're selling incredible vintage motorcycles. We do antics on that. We have a blast.
Yeah,
We
Ken's
travel
great.
all over. It's going
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And I will give a plug to Ken. If you guys want to check out a really good YouTube channel, especially with motorcycles, it's
Mm-hmm.
called Kaplan, Kaplan America.
There you go. Check it out. You should drop it even in a comment section if you can at some point, and I'll drop the other stuff that I had said earlier too. So listen, guys, I don't know exactly a schedule yet. We don't have all that stuff, but when I'm inspired to talk, I'm just going to come on here and talk. And if this is a show, a podcast, self improvement, self empowerment, if you want to label me as a Bible thumper, if you want to label me as a liar and a cheater and a sinner, I'll take all those things. The one thing I'm no longer is insecure. I am working on insecurities. There's no doubt that insecurity probably that eats me up the most is a personal relationship, and those things are part of life. And I'm going to deal with that publicly because how I deal with that is exactly what's going to help somebody. Because those are why we have divorces. That's why, hey, listen, I regret all the time what I put my ex-wife through, Melissa, and thank God that she's been able to come back and we've been able to communicate. It's been it's been amazing to be around, just to talk to her and be around my kids with her. And that was my insecurity that kept me away and insecurity that caused that, right? So I'm really committed to this, Mark. I hope you are as well. So what do you think, Mark? Where do we go from here? Let's not be insecure about it. Let's be secure. What do we do next?
I think I'm actually looking. I'm in going to be reaching out to some more inspiring guests to come on. I want to do a
Awesome.
little more uplifting stuff
Mhm.
because, especially
Am
with
I
the
am I
news.
depressing? Am I depressing you today?
No, you're not actually.
Okay, very good. See, I was
But
insecure. That's why I asked you. I didn't know.
but no, there's so much negative stuff going on. Let's focus on
Mm-hmm.
there's so much positive things going on that
Mm-hmm.
just gets overshadowed.
Mm-hmm.
Our country's in turmoil if you watch mainstream media, but I really believe that our country, we agree on more things than we disagree.
Agree. I agree.
And you get politicians that want hard right, hard left, this, that, ever in the whole middle. It's basically politics right now for me is pretty much good versus evil, but
Right.
it's a nasty custody battle on who's going to get the kids, and we're the children that are getting ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
And all we got to do is stand up and say enough.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved. We just had local elections. Maybe you couldn't have gotten involved. Get involved next time. People say, "Oh, I don't know what to do." Join your local town committees. Get involved. They'll tell you what to do. Hold a sign. Make phone calls. It's not like a lot of people don't want to get involved because they think it's going to cost them money. Yes, money helps, but time is what needed, and you change your community. And if you're local of public servants, because that's what they are, they answer to us. We don't answer to them, so don't let them twist it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like what they're doing in America, we can fire them. Just like that. Get involved, get petitions, hold signs, and say enough is enough.
Enough is enough. There it goes. Right
Turn
from the
the
words of
table
Mark.
over. And I want to explain, especially there was the hard life to everyone thinking, oh, we're controlled by this. And I don't want to go too deep, but we went to a school board. As soon as we started asking questions, time to adjourn, and they left. They run. They are afraid of us asking intelligent
So there's a form of
questions.
insecurity, and it's an insecurity that's probably imposed by some of the things they have knowledge of and they don't want to share. So insecurity is possible to be even in the political or whatever. This is what, this is kind of the theme that I think is important to understand. That's a really good perspective I think you just laid out there. Mark, you dealt with a lot of different people in DCF custody. You worked in DCF, right?
Yeah, in social service, juvenile
Yep.
justice.
When you find the young people that you dealt with, not to talk specifics, but you talk a lot about the young people you engage with, and a lot of them were abused. Quite frankly, a lot of them were abused to the point where they probably had been predicted to be, failures. And, there's no way you're going to survive from multiple rapes from multiple relatives in your family. You saw that. You saw the victims who had been, abused, physically beaten, bones broken. And yet, how's this kid or this person going to be normal in the world that we work in, or this girl, when she or he was brought up in devastating situations? So the reason I'm bringing it up is it's interesting to me in insecurity. How insecure is the system for not really addressing the issues? Because I think that is the real systemic issue that I talk about. The issues are that why doesn't society go into these places and protect these kids? Why don't we have more education of mental health
Yeah,
services?
I
The
I think
system's
it comes.
insecure.
Yeah, it total insecure because I don't think they know the answers or want to know the answers. And a lot of times in child protective services, you got academia telling you this, and that's not real world.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta. They're not married. It's not a good marriage of street work of what's going on when you're in the trenches and academia working together.
Right.
And a lot of kids get thrown through to the wolves.
Right. 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 So insecurity, big part of it. Listen, I'm gonna thank you for coming on. I'm gonna go in and kind of tell my little bit of my story of insecurity. I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I appreciate you popping on. You're not insecure enough to go in the back room, right?
Nah, have a great day, guys. Remember, do
Appreciate you.
good things.
There it is. Do good things. That was your thing. Remember you recorded that? It was creepy, but thank you very much. Don't be
Hey, I
insecure
tried.
about it. I like you. All right, thank you, Mark. So there you go, Mark, the producer. And so I'm gonna get kind of wrap this up with some of the thoughts. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate Mark being a part of it and coming on. And really, we just literally had a conversation yesterday about insecurities. I be insecure. I'm sitting here outside where my parents live in a 55 and older place. You got the plastic container behind me. I'm not insecure. This is where I belong to be right now. God's put me here, and that's why I'm going to come and talk to you here. Insecurity almost cost Mark and I our relationship in this business that we created together in the podcast world. And we had really good conversations about it. But the entire time, I wasn't ready with my personal growth to understand how my insecurities were affecting him. And I woke up insecure today. I had insecurities this morning. I probably let them take a little bit of my control, and then I was able to refocus and get back. Of course, using prayer for me is just the best and most amazing part of my life is really reaching out to God for those answers. And I think that's one way that I could have probably been less insecure in life. And I say when I look back on my life, being brought up in a very um, low, low income home. Having a parent, parents working, the story of my mom, going to prison, me visiting her in prison, and then at the same prison that my mom actually was at and I retired from. And this is part of the book that we're writing and the journey that I've been on. And, I'm not insecure to say it anymore. There's no insecurity of who I am. And it took a long time to get here because as I put in right here in the heading here, it causes issues. Insecurity causes issues with intimacy. You can't trust yourself. You can't trust somebody else. If you can't walk into a room, can't even tell you how many times I used to be so insecure to walk around, especially big crowds. Maybe it was the corrections and combined insecurity. I would be in big crowds and I would be tense and nervous. And then my energy would build up. I mean, I can tell you a story. One time I was so insecure with Melissa. She'd probably laugh about it, but it's not, it's funny now. It wasn't funny then. We were in a bar drinking many years ago on St. Patty's Day and March 17th, right? And St. Patty's Day. And we were up in Putnam, Connecticut at J.D. Cooper's. And this guy comes over. We were there to meet some people that we're going to go to a wedding with and one of Melissa's friends. And this guy come over. He started talking to everybody. Well, I thought he was flirting with Melissa. So I got up insecure. Mind you, I was drunk out of my mind, wearing my underwear, I think, in the bar, totally trying to have a good time. And then insecurity hit. I got up and I popped him. You can check it. You can run my mitt, as they say. I got arrested for assault. It went through the system. I almost lost my job in corrections because of it. And that was after my DWI that I had too, by the way. That's the two things that I had brush-ins with law when I was a correction officer. So insecurity can get you anytime. I mean, I was in a bar and Melissa wasn't going home with the guy. I was totally made up in my manifest in my own mind, but I allowed the insecurities. And I think sometimes I look back on my life that alcohol led to a lot of the insecurities, at least some of those negative things that took place as well. So if you're out there right now and you're thinking about like, how do I overcome insecurity? Maybe you don't think you're insecure. Ask yourself when you walk into a room or somebody says something to you, do you automatically get into the defensive? Anybody that knows me, I could pretend not to be defensive, but I was automatically defensive on every level of my life for the longest time, 53 years, quite frankly. 53 years. And some of you are going to sit there and go, this guy's lost his mind. Like, why is he talking like this? You want to tell you? I'm going to tell you why I'm talking. I'm not insecure anymore. I also know where I'm going. I also know that we're going to be dropping a multi-part series with one of the Wu-Tang members on PTSD, post-incarcerated inmates, the effects on them. I'm going to be representing the law enforcement capacity. We're going to be bringing in some other professionals in the series. We had a great call today with one of my favorite people in the world, Uzma, who's putting this together, and she's one of the contributors on this. She's actually organizing it. I'm a contributor, right, Uzma? And we're going to be doing that in November. And then the put up or shut up. I'm not insecure to talk about it anymore. It's happening, guys. The reality show that is going to change the way people view how relationships happen, especially when it comes to inner city dealing with country. This is a great project, man. This is a project that will break down barriers and doors. And I was too insecure for the longest time to even understand how that is going to have an impact on me because I was focused on insecurity. I wasn't focused on this great opportunity, which we are now about one or two stages away from talking with, distribution right after our production schedule gets done. We are filming that, by the way. The Saturday after Thanksgiving was a schedule. I know we're going to be out filming every weekend moving forward, and that's one of the reasons I'm down in Florida, not just to be with my parents, but also to be going up to Columbia, South Carolina with my guy, Little Bo, and the whole team and working on that. The other thing I'm not insecure to tell you is that we're going to be going around doing speeches and talking and testimonies about my life. And there's an important, valued lesson in my life, and it's something of redemption. It's something about the second chance. It's something about a sinner. The Sinners Tour that was created is still moving along. I'm not even getting into that. I'm focused on these few things right here, but the Sinners Tour is still real because that was the creation of what God gave me as a vision. And when God created that vision for me, I started to take down some of those insecurities, and I was able to see truly for the first time how my reaction to certain situations, either in business or personal or whatever, were affecting me because of insecurity. Insecurity is a big problem. It's a big problem. And so I just want you to take a moment today and just think about if you're insecure, what you can do to change that. The first thing I think you can do is write things down. If you feel like you're insecure, write everything you're insecure about. Like say, I'm insecure about when people talk to me this way. I'm insecure my weight. I'm insecure with my the way I speak. I'm insecure that I don't have an education. Guys, I don't have a PhD. I don't have a college degree. I barely passed high school, and I got into community college and then got hired in corrections. But I have the world wisdom that I'm not afraid of anymore, and I'm not insecure about. And so you should be really confident in who you are, because there's a lot of people out there that hold themselves back because they put all these qualifications. And when you start saying, oh, I can't achieve this, I can't do this, I can't be that, it's because you're insecure about who you are. Now I'm talking about being cocky, because by the way, there's a whole series on cockiness that I can certainly talk about, because I was a insecure, cocky guy. I don't know if that's oxymoron or not, but I think it's fair to say that I was an insecure, cocky guy for the longest time. And that's probably how I pulled off any success that I had, that I was able to pretend like I was so confident when I really wasn't. I was totally insecure inside. And I know there's many of you that are that way right now, men especially. I'm talking to you right now. Women, I know you deal with this as well. And I just don't know exactly how to talk about how a woman, young woman, transitions from that young woman into a woman, all these physical things and all these things going on. And I can certainly talk from the perspective of a narcissist, a former narcissist in recovery, to sobriety and political recovery, all those things that I've been in recovery, how those things led to my insecurity in relationships with a lot of different people. And I wonder if women have similar issues. I don't know. Drop a comment right here if you'd like to. Men, though, take a minute, pump the brakes. Listen to me right now, right here. Just stop and listen. take a minute and write down all those things that you know, because we all know ourselves, guys. We can lie to ourselves every day. You can look in the mirror and say, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're still going to have 33 cents in your bank account. You can look in the mirror and say, oh, you were the state representative. You were going to run for Congress. You had hemp farms and this, that, and all. You're great and successful. It doesn't matter. I'm still going to sleep on a couch because I didn't have a house in Connecticut. You see, insecurity will cause those things to happen to you as they fall apart around you. It's who actually can build themselves up and fly from the ashes like what? A phoenix, and rise again up to the top and not be cocky, not be so pig-headed, not be angry or vindictive. And let me talk about vindiction, being vindictive. I think I just made a word up, vindiction. Don't be afraid. I know Mark just wrote me something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, Mark. I can't see it. Uh, don't even throw me notes right now, Mark. I'm too insecure to read right now. Let me just rock. I'm one of these things is the insecurities that were caused in my life. Again, go back to childhood trauma that was never attended to. That's nobody's fault. I'm not here to blame. I'm not here to point fingers. At some point in your life, you acknowledge the things that cause these problems in your life. You got to go out and deal with them. When I was a young married man with Melissa raising our kids, if I had taken that inner voice that was talking to me and said, hey, go speak to somebody, go talk to somebody, go try to fix that problem, you know what? I would have. I would have. And I would have probably most likely changed the path of my life, and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And that is just 100% why God chose me to go through this journey. And a lot of pain and suffering came along with this. The insecurities of every issue compounded greatly, time after time after time. And when they finally, reached the point of breaking, through God's grace, I was able to have people around me that just picked me up. And I just want to thank them because they rebuilt an insecure person from the ground up. I don't know how much I can, say how much I appreciate and thank them for that. So, insecurity is a killer. It will destroy your relationships in business and personal relationships. Insecurity will control you every time you walk into a room. Insecurity will control you when you look in a mirror. Insecurity will control you when you look at your bank book. Insecurity will control you when you see somebody else's car. Now, how many of you out there right now will hear somebody in your life and will see somebody that has success, like somebody that wins like a pot, or win something, and the person who didn't win is insecure so much that they have to make negative comments? That's a form of insecurity. What about if you see somebody and they're driving a really fancy car? Automatically, if you're thinking, wow, that's beautiful, man, that would be great to have that car. Or are you thinking automatically, wow, that guy, he's probably, he didn't deserve it. I deserve it. And, those are the things that go in our internal voices that we don't often talk about. You need to acknowledge when you're insecure, nip that in the bud because it's just going to fester. It's going to build and it's going to make you into not a really good person. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that not good person is going to find themselves in situations that aren't so positive for your own person, right? So thank you. I don't even know what to say. How many minutes are we doing this? I think we did it for almost 33 minutes. That's good enough for me. I am done here. My job is done. My words of advice for those that are living insecure is write it down on paper, look at it, evaluate it, look at who's in your life. You might have people in your life right now that you don't have to shift out of your life. You're going to have to move out of your life. You're going to have to shift them out. Like I made a very conscious decision in my businesses. If you're not a Christian, I cannot do business with you in a business partnership. Can I do business across aisles and boards? 1,000%. That's not the issue. I cannot be your business partner right now where I am in my life. I needed some stability into these things, and that's what's paid off greatly. Obviously, as we laid out all these unbelievable things that I'm not insecure to talk about, it's only because I turned to one job coach, and it's God. That's worked for me. Maybe you have a different way you need to handle it, but if you're insecure about any little thing in your life, you need to nip it in the bud or you're just going to hold yourself back. I promise you from the bottom of my heart, this is true. And learn from my experience because my experience is one that, will inspire some people, maybe depress a few in the beginning when you read the early part of the book, but it's certainly going to be something that will hopefully open people's eyes. Because remember, I had a very diverse career here. I came up from a very mild middle class upbringing, suffered from dyslexia. I struggled in school. My situation, my mom and the sex offense, and then just really not having a lot of things in my life, and then finding myself eventually into a corrections officer job that changed my life. Me and Melissa raised our kids, and I stopped thinking about all the things that were hurting me, And I never looked back on them. And I really regret not dealing with them at that time. So live a life without insecurity. You can do it. I promise you, you can. We're going to have more of these thoughts of the day kind of concepts coming to you. I hope you enjoy them. If you have any comments, drop them right here. You want to talk to me personally, drop it right here. I will call or text anybody that wants to talk because, well, I've always been that way. And as long as I can do it, I'm going to continue to do it because it really matters about me communicating to you. God's given me this gift, and all praise and glory to God in Jesus' name that I give, that I have a chance to come and do this platform and expand into other projects. And I'm continuously going to just give him the praise and glory. But I'm also going to say to you, I'm here for a reason because God wants to help and save you today because he loves you like I love you, okay? So don't turn your back on this opportunity to get rid of your insecurities in your life and turn your life around. Ironhawk Financial, Joseph Lombardi, managing partner right here, 203-815-3673. Give them a call today. They're going to help you out with all your financial needs. Joe is actually had a great call with him and Eric and Mark this morning. And we're talking about doing some really unique, special stuff, some different services coming together, working together, and some sort of a webinar type weekly opportunity working directly for them. Actually, it's really nice because I'm not going to have this as my project. I want to work on this project and just be a voice and be, a moderator, whatever they choose for me, or turn it over to somebody else like Mark to do it. But at the end of the day, Ironhawk Financial, Joseph Lombardi, he's a great mind. And he's going all over the country, traveling and speaking. He's going viral, I guess, and he's going to be speaking at all these different platforms. But we're so honored that he started his journey with us in this expanding Ironhawk Financial to the national market space. We're really proud. Let him know the Kevin Allen Show. I don't know if it's the Kevin Allen Show. Just let him know Kevin Allen sent you and Mark. Do that, all right? And we will see you the next time talking about the next thing, whatever that next thing is going to be.